Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Capitol Hill. I'm your host, Adam Preston. Tonight I am joined by Senator Nick Rhodes of South Carolina. If you don't remember, he ran for president in 2016, was eventually beaten by President Bayer, dropped out soon after Super Tuesday. A little later on, hopefully we will be having Senator William Hanover on as well. He's running a little bit late, so we'll just move on without him. If he can join us later, that's awesome. Otherwise, we'll just get him on another day. Senator Rhodes, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Adam?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Wonderful.
Since you're the only one we have tonight, let's go ahead and jump into some questions. You want to?
Sure thing. Let's jump right in.
All righty. First, we need to get the elephant out of the room. No pun intended. First question is coming from Isaiah Nicholson from Manchester, New Hampshire. He says, Senator, you called the 2018 election disastrous for Republicans. Who's to blame for this?
Well, I would put the blame on the leadership, particularly Senator Underwood of South Carolina. He was in charge of, I guess you could say, running these elections, putting in place the sort of support our senators need to stay in office, and he failed to do that. And I would primarily put that on, his ambitions to run for president. He got too distracted, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So was that, in your opinion, well, maybe not in your opinion, you probably know the facts, was that why he was replaced as Senate Majority Leader? Minority Leader now?
I would say so. I think Republicans would like a new direction for the party, and I hope Tom Frazier gives us that new direction we're looking for.
Fantastic. And I think that we actually have Senator Hanover on the line. Are you there, sir? Let's see, maybe not. We're having a little technical difficulties, perhaps. Senator, if you want to send me a text message letting me know, that would be sufficient. Otherwise, we can get you on later or whatever we need to do. Senator Rhodes, I suppose we're going back to you, yeah?
Yes, sir. I believe so.
All right, let's go.
Cheryl, it's always a good go-to for me.
Who is that?
Preston, I believe we have someone else on the line.
I believe we do. Is that you, Senator Hanover? Let's see. Let's go ahead and move on. So, Senator Rhodes, the next question is coming from Mary Wagner. She lives in Wayne, New Jersey. And she wants to ask you, it's now been almost 2 years since a fatal bridge collapse in Louisiana, and Congress has still failed to act. Is this next Congress going to finally pass a solution to prevent a further disaster?
Well, to tell you the truth, Mr. Preston, I don't believe we can really come to a agreement on this because the Democrats just want to spend on all sorts of things that aren't really relevant to the catastrophe itself, and it's really sad how they're exploiting the tragedy to pass all these unnecessary bills. Well, I suppose they are necessary in a sense, but it doesn't need to be the government that is the arbiter of these changes. We need to form public-private partnerships to get these repairs through. We don't need to put the weight on a government that's already suffering from a massive budget crisis. You know what I mean?
You're referring to Senator Blutarski's bill of last session, I'm assuming.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
For those of you at home that don't quite remember, last session of Congress, Senator Blutarski introduced a massive infrastructure bill as a result of this disaster, and it passed through the Senate, but the House eventually voted it down, and nothing has developed past that. So, Senator Rhodes, are you intending to offer a bill for these public-private partnerships?
I would look into it. I would be willing to go across the aisle to work with my colleagues that are now in control of the chamber, but I would like to see some more realistic goals being set.
Such as?
First we need to prioritize the structures that are in immediate danger of collapse, and we need to organize it by necessity. So we need to focus on our roads first. We need to put excuse me, I'm blanking out here for a second.
That's all right. It's live radio. It happens.
Of course. But
so I see what you're saying. So a lot of Democrats will like to push high-speed rail, for example. You're not so much a fan of that. You think that we need to repair what we have now. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, do you think that you'll have any luck getting that through Congress?
I believe we would have. I believe it would be very feasible to get these immediate repairs through Congress. I believe that we need to prioritize.
Well, I'm sure Mary would be very happy if Congress actually would act on that. So it'll be interesting to see. Let's go ahead and move on to a question coming from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Quincy Harold asks, will you support the Senate Majority Leader's attempts to pass a $15 minimum wage?
I would not. I believe that we need to focus on controlling inflation, and raising the wage as recklessly as we plan to do, as the Democrats plan to do. I believe that would push up inflation, therefore devaluing the dollar and making any sort of wage increase worthless. We need to focus on getting our economy back on track before we talk about any sort of increase in wage.
I'm sure a lot of Democrats would argue that that is how you would boost the economy, to put more money into the hands of lower income Americans. Is that not your viewpoint?
Well, the issue with that is that it is devaluing the dollar, sir. And any sort of wage increase is as worthless as the value of the dollar decreases because of rising cost of goods.
Fair enough. Let's see. I have a couple more questions for you here. We definitely won't be here the entire half an hour, but it's very good to get your opinion on these things as well. Let's see. So let's move to Bobby Hyatt from Grand Prairie, Texas. He asks, as the authoritarian government of Venezuela seems to be consolidating their power, what should the U.S. do? What can the U.S. do about this?
Well, there's one foreign policy that I tend to follow since I first joined the Senate, and that is there is, I guess you could call it a triad of evil we need to deal with in the world. And I believe that triad is North Korea, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela. And I believe that...
okay, yeah, please go on.
I believe that we need to take every diplomatic mean to deal with these nations as possible, and if necessary, take military action, because they represent a threat to United States interests.
Okay. I have several follow-up questions on that, but let me first address probably what Bobby was referring to. So you're in favor of possibly military strikes against the government of Venezuela?
I did not say that.
But it's an option.
If they threaten United States interests, perhaps.
Would you care to define that? Some would argue that merely by, being such an authoritarian government so close to our U.S. soil, that alone is a threat.
But we will need to evaluate their actions in the future to see what sort of actions they plan to take in contradiction to our interests.
So at present, you don't think that we're to that point where military strikes would be, inevitable? We're not there yet.
I believe that diplomacy is still an option. I've always believed that diplomacy comes first. I'm not a war hawk. Let me be plainly clear there.
Mm-hmm. What about with North Korea? Are we there yet with them?
Well, let's just say that it's becoming increasingly dangerous in dealing with this nation. They have exhibited no sort of willingness to answer our calls to diplomacy. And I believe that there are still diplomatic options, but we will not get by going directly through North Korea. We need to deal with our allies in the region, and we need to deal with China. Because China, as we all know, hold the key to North Korea. They hold the puppet strings.
Sure, so put pressure on China.
Sir.
It's funny to hear you mention our allies, and it's even funny, not even funny, it's just ironic that you would include Saudi Arabia on that list, but not Iran.
Well, I'm going to be plainly clear about this, Mr.
Please.
Preston, because I believe that there is substantial evidence that Saudi Arabia is responsible for much of the strife caused in the Middle East. There is evidence to link them to ISIL. There's evidence to link them to Al-Qaeda. And I believe that they present a greater threat to the United States interests in the region than Iran. That isn't to say Iran isn't a threat, but I believe Saudi Arabia is the more immediate threat. And you won't hear this from my colleagues because, as you know, we get much of our oil resources from Saudi Arabia, as they are the leader of OPEC. But I'm going to be the one to come out and say it.
Not to mention thousands of American servicemen that are serving or on a base in Saudi Arabia right now. Would you shut down all American bases?
If I were elected president, I would begin withdrawing support from Saudi Arabia. I would.
You would?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I'll actually leave that one alone, let you deal with the inevitable fallout that will come from that. I'm sorry to say it. But of course, it's always good to hear you, hear a senator speak his mind, regardless of the possible, political consequences of it. We always want to hear the truth, and it's reassuring to hear that from you.
Yes, sir. I am a firm believer in the truth. I don't back down when it's politically convenient. That's why my constituents love me.
They do seem to. I have one more question for you, then I'll let you go for the evening. This one comes from Stephen Hayes. He's from Providence, Rhode Island.
All right, hit me with it.
Senate Republican. Go ahead. Senator Republicans were unable to pass the TPP while they had the majority. He asks, is there any hope? And is there any hope for the TPP left now?
I'd say there is absolutely no hope, and you will see this in the results of the House elections. We got many nationalists coming in, albeit from the Democratic Party, but I believe this shows how solidly the American people is against TPP and how it would adversely affect our economy.
But the president remains for it, though.
Well, sorry to say it, Dom. It's not passing.
I'm sure he's not a stranger to criticism from you, considering your history.
Oh no, we go way back.
So, this is actually a quick question just from me. You've recently announced that you are seeking the Republican nomination again. Do you think that you'll win it?
Do I think I'll win it?
Pretty rare in especially modern political history that a candidate would be, successful more than one time. You made it all the way to Super Tuesday. You did fairly well. Do you think that things are different now?
I believe that the American people have seen the adverse effects of President Bayer's politics and would like something new, something different. I represent that new change that's starting to come to American politics. It's been building up for a long time. The American people are angry and they want something new. I'm here to bring it.
What is it that you offer that he doesn't?
Well, my policy is simple. Deal with America's enemies, the ones I named off earlier, North Korea, ISIL, and we're going to make America great again.
Oh, goodness. All right, well, that's probably where we should end this show. No, but in all seriousness, do you have any parting shots for us before you get off?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, they say hindsight's 20/20. So jump on the roads of greatness. Let's make America great again.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being here tonight, Senator Rhodes. And I wish you the best of luck in this upcoming session of Congress and on the campaign trail. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot from you in the next couple of years.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Senator. And that concludes Capitol Hill with Adam Preston. We will see you next time.